Right, more than a horse here at just out of Toulon, catching up with Tayla, French and Hector. Hector's behind us. Hello, Tate.
Hello, how are you?
Very, very well. As I said, you're not allowed to take another step out there. We've got a few things going on. We've also got Jerry underneath, and if anyone knows Jerry, he's either going to help or not. If the camera moves in a minute, that'll be Jerry's fault as well. Tay, I like getting out and finding out a little bit more about horses. As I said, it's more than a horse, and Hector, as he's more affectionately known, but Parisian Artiste, pretty special horse in your eyes, and he's been a pretty special part of your, I suppose, life in harness racing, you know, for as long as you've had him anyway.
Yeah, he definitely has. I remember clear as day the first time Alex asked me to drive him. It's when we were training at the Bendigo Training Centre. That's the rest is history pretty much. I jumped on and I drove him, and I looked at Alex as we went over the line. I said, "You're never getting the steer back." And yeah, since then he hasn't.
He hasn't either. And you guys, I worked out today, I think you've had him for about 28 starts. He's won 10 of those. So, you know, you can say, well, he's been a special horse as far as wins and things like that. But he's done so much more, I suppose, for your career, and also, I suppose, for your confidence, if you like, as to, you know, saying that you belong in this industry.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, obviously, it was early days when Alex and I first got together, and Hector was a part of the team, and early on training together, never in our darkest of days you would have thought a Group 1 would be on the cards, never alone to win one. And yeah, when we won one, it was just so surreal, and that's probably also made us realise, like, they don't come around that easy, because it's a couple of years ago now, so we were a lot younger and probably not as mature as what we are now. So yeah, patience is key in a way, but yeah, this horse is something special.
It's quite interesting too, because the way you say that, because you ran third in the Breeders' Crown, I think it was the first Group 1 that you actually had, and then unfortunately no joy in the Derby. But then it was the Sire Stakes. The Vic Breed was your first Group 1. It was a hell of a ride the first year you get on a horse, and you're competing in 3 of the biggest Group 1 events, you know, on the calendar, and you had a little bit of that mixed form. But for him to come out and win the Vic Breed, it must have been just, you know, for yourself, it must have been a great elation, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. And I still, to this day, like, maybe once or twice a week, I'll watch that race on replay and I continually get goosebumps. And I'll sit there and giggle to myself, and people are like, "What are you laughing at?" But yeah, I think his first start when I won on him was at Cobram, and it might have been up to 50 or something. And we just floated to the front and ran away from him, but didn't really expect too much going forward. But every time he steps on the track, I don't think he's ever really disappointed us. If he hasn't performed high enough, Jerry, then there's obviously reasons as to why he hasn't. But no, he always gives us 110%.
He was a little bit of a naughty boy. He could do a few things a little bit highly strung, I suppose, early on, and I think we did a couple of mic'd ups, cameraed up, and you could see, like, he loves the game. He was competitive, but he also had that little bit of attitude, I suppose.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of attitude. That's just him, though. Like, if he didn't have that, he's not right. So every time we step out on the track, he puts me on the grass or he pulls me towards the fence. It's like, that doesn't change, but game day, when it's race time and he's in the warm-up and he's up on the bit, like, he's ready to go. And he's a true athlete, I guess. Like, he knows when to switch on. At home, he kind of stuffs around a little bit, and, you know, like, he's going to start shaking his head because that's just him. But he goes to the races and, like, he's nervous as, like, people are like, "Wow, is he already raced?" But no, that's just him. And he's always been that nervous type. I don't think he'll ever change. And at home's the same. It's as soon as he sees the float on and he's getting ready, like, he starts to shake and sweat. And, you know, I've kind of learnt to go with it. And at the start I got really nervous. Like, it made me nervous. And, you know, a nervous driver and a nervous horse aren't a good combination. But, I've learnt to go with it, and we've had success. So I think if he didn't have his quirks and whatnot, like, it wouldn't be Hector. And, yeah.
You said the first time you got on him and drove him, what is it about the horse that, like, people say about a feel and getting behind a horse? And I'll say to this day, I think when you get on a nice feeling trotter, there is nothing better. But, you know, I would imagine that day you got on him, and you said he was on him 50 rater, you wouldn't have dreamt at the time of winning a Group 1. But, you know, what is it about it that when you said, well, Alex isn't getting back off this, can you actually remember, like, what that feel felt like and what it did for you?
Not particularly, but, just like his point-to-point speed, like when I asked him to stride up the straight and he really responded to me. Obviously, he's come a long way since then, but, he's just, I don't know, I can't really describe it. Like, I've never actually driven another horse that's given me the feeling that Hector has. I've driven a couple of nice horses and, my very own horses too, for instance, but, something about him and I that just clicked and, I wouldn't look back.
Did it change your perception of other horses, if you like? Like, I quite often say myself, you used to have horses and you think, oh yeah, this will be a good horse, this will be a good horse, and then until you get on a good horse, you don't actually realise what it will. Did he, change that perception for you?
No, I've sort of always been one that's been a little bit not full of confidence and not always, oh, this is a good horse, this is winning today or anything like that. But, like a lot of people these days jump on yearlings and they're like, it goes real nice, but I don't know, you don't really know that early. Yearlings a lot at the moment actually are all the same, so young, so it's hard to get a good judge and feel on them. But Hector, he was one of a kind. I can't really say I've driven another horse that I've jumped on and said, oh, this goes really good.
It's a great feeling, though, and I think I like that. I think that's the honest part about him. I said he's only had the 28 starts for you guys. He's only had 44 starts, I think, all up as it is, and he's won 11 of those. I think it's about $180,000 in stakes. So he's got a great record. He's just been missing for a little while, and I wasn't sure. I quite often get nervous, if they've broken down. You don't like to tell people, but he had an unusual twist as to why he missed out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, he is obviously very lightly raced, and there's been a few excuses and reasons why he hasn't raced for so long. And I think November's coming up 2 years since he won his last race, which is like a horse that races in free-for-alls and good races. That's a long
And he's won one in every three for you guys. That is a really long time, isn't it?
Yeah, but patience pays off. But no, I don't know, one day he just wasn't right. I think it was when we took him to Menangle and he won. We actually had to scratch him the week before. I think it was when we took Stevie G up for the Nutrien series, and he just wasn't right in the box. I caught him kicking at the walls and he wasn't eating and he was rolling, and then he got cast and so forth. And we had the vet out to him at Menangle and he had colic. And then, I don't know, maybe a couple of months later, he was showing signs again and we thought it was colic again. But, it turned out it wasn't. We went to the vets. Sarah, everyone thought it was colic, it was signs of colic. So we were treating him as if it was colic. And then just this one day, I remember we had Bendigo trials and I was driving a few for Keithy Cochin, and I said, Keith, I've got to take my horse to the vet. So I jumped off his horses and I took Hector to the vet, and it was horrible. He was in a lather of sweat and he was panting, and got him off the float. I think Naomi, her name was, met me there and she said, this isn't right. So she called Sarah in and they had a look at him, and his whole nervous system shut down in his rear end, and it was a matter of life or death, I guess.
And, I suppose hats off to the guys at Bendigo, Sarah. And Sarah does do an awesome job, but I think they always get the raps. But so many other people, like you were just saying there about, if it was Naomi or whoever the other person was there, knew straight away something wasn't right. And, it must have been a bit of a struggle, I suppose. Initially, you'd be worried about saving him and things along those lines, because it was that sort of style of an issue. But then, did you ever think we may not get him back to the races?
That was definitely on the cards. It was a day-by-day thing, and, still to this day there's no real answers as to why or how it happened or when it happened, I guess. But, Sarah was itching her head, but, as you said, hats off to Sarah. Their team was absolutely fantastic, and they persisted and persisted with him, and, it paid off. I think he was in the vet for, might have been 26 or 27 days, so that's a long time, and hats off to his owners too. Financially, it wasn't easy, but no, they were happy to keep going and persisting after everything he's rewarded us with. So, patience was the main thing though. I was on the phone to Sarah day in, day out, but she couldn't answer because we just didn't know what the answer was. But, I think he come home and for a chunky little horse that he is, he's so round and he holds his condition so well. For the time that he couldn't eat or anything, he just looked horrible. His condition was just so sad. But it took ages for him to get back. And then I think we had one start in the Swan Hill Cup, which he didn't trot great and laid in a lot and actually got on his bumper. Something wasn't right there. So we took him to, Sarah suggested to go to Werribee and get a scintigraphy.
Scintigraphy?
Yep, thank you.
There's a few words I can butcher, but that one I got like a nail.
So we took him down there and, so then he had a bit of a few more issues in behind. But, again, to Sarah's credit, she got on the phone to Werribee and already had pre-warned them of his condition that was unanswered for. And, just a team of vets that looked after him, it was sensational. And, he wouldn't have got through the next few days after going into the vet if it wasn't for them.
Were the two problems, they think, combined, like the same issue rearing its head again? Was that one of Sarah's worries, or was it just the fact that he has had such a history with the vets that she was more worried about him?
No, it was probably just such a history. He's just so, it's just so weird. He's probably half a miracle horse because he's, Sarah had never seen anything like it before when he was in there. And, she was also just looking out for the horse, I guess. And every time now, if he goes in there to get checked or injected, they're always asking about him. And, it is a miracle that he's back at the races. And I guess you could say it's a miracle that he's even alive.
Your emotions at the time, they are more than a horse. They're our mates. You've experienced the highest of highs. Can you describe your emotions at the time when you get people like Sarah and they're saying they don't know, and she's a decorated vet with so much experience? Do you remember how you were feeling yourself?
Oh, I was gutted. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. But I still went into the vet and I'd feed him his daily dose of licorice most days. So it was a hard time, but as I said, there was no answers. There was no one to blame. It was just one of them things, you've got to move on and not get over it. But, just fingers crossed that it works out for the best.
Has he given you that feel, that feel that you had beforehand? Has he given you that feel since? Was there a time on the track and you said, hey, we could be back either before Swan Hill or after Swan Hill?
Definitely not prior to Swan Hill or after Swan Hill, but this time in, he's come back in, we had no expectations of him at all. If we never really push him at home, and if he wasn't going to perform on the racetrack or something, we wouldn't really know till he made the races. But, his first up run, I think they went 54 and he chased home Harry Stamper and Mufasa Metro, and they're elite horses. And ideally it would have been nice to have his first few starts over the longer trip, but there was just nothing around, so we had to opt for the miles. And, he's just exceeded expectations.
He was outstanding last week. That must have put a smile on your face, did it, when you were easing down? Because I think it was as good as I've seen him go for a very, very long time.
Yeah, he was super. He's passed, I think he's had 3 starts in now, and all of just beyond tick the boxes. But, he's performing, but my biggest sin that I'm thankful for is that he's sound, and he's 100% sound. And, fingers crossed, if we can keep that all under control, under wraps, we should have a good couple of years. Yourself,
you've had a career that's a little bit the same, up and down. You, I suppose, you've taken a little bit of a step back now. Does this invigorate your hunger for the industry, getting back on him, and you remember what you do love about the sport?
Yeah, definitely. This guy, he's the answers to all my questions, really. Without him, I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd probably be at work 24/7. So, no, I always say to Alex, if I'm in a mood or something, put me out on the track on Hector, because, I don't know, he just fixes everything.
Yeah, and I think that's what I try to do with these things. I think too many times we think the horses are a punting proposition, where they're at, can they win, can they not win, and things along those lines. And I think a lot of people probably don't realise behind the scenes, what does happen, what happens with the horses, but what happens with the humans that have got to look after them as well, because they emotionally do tear us apart so much. They
do, 100%. They put a lot of strains on things financially, emotionally, and also socially. So it's a hard game, but you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't love it and if you didn't love the animal. But they're definitely a lot more than race horses. I think there's 7 out there in my retirement paddock, and I was meant to have 1. So
thankfully he's not in there yet, but he might end up in there.
We won't talk about retirement just yet, no. But if I could wrap him in bubble wrap and have him in my house, that would be the go-to plan.
I'll give Alex a hand, and Alex has got to remember to buy licorice for him because there was no licorice left for him when he came. Tay, thank you. Thanks for sharing the story, but also thanks. Like, you've done a lot of stuff with this horse over the journey, and I don't think you'd won your Group 1 at the time when we did that mic'd up and the camera shot. So I think you're aware of the horse you've got. You're aware of selling this industry too. We've got to make sure people are aware of how important this industry is. Artiste Trotters, they're bringing this one to you. They've been great supporters of mine, but they also support you guys. You've got another couple of horses here from them, and I mean, but I reckon you'd be indebted to them forever for this little bloke by love you out of Schleck, that's for sure. So Tay, thank you. Thanks for sharing the story.
Thank you. And yeah, just back to Artiste Trotters and Yabby Dam, anytime, I'm obviously a lover for the Trotters, and I probably can't, I'll never look past them. They're always my first go-to point with the Trotters, and they do a sensational job, and we're grateful that they give us the opportunities they do.
Tay, thank you.
Thank you.